Now that you're listening, the biggest existential threat to our planet is climate change. And the fact that we're still dealing with this shit is really fucking annoying. Now that you're listening, I want to thank all the allies who have come out, who have reached out, who have done the research, who have fought, who have protested, who have marched, who have donated. All those people who are here with us right now. Though I will say that I am disappointed that it took all this death and a global pandemic for you to actually start listening and pushing towards this. As a person of color, this is something we talk about all the time. This is stuff we scream about. This is stuff we yell about. We die for this. We are martyrs to this cause of which we are always a part of. And yet we are met with apathy more often than not. And that apathy gets to you. Like, Superman doesn't come to the hood and help us. Like, we have to help ourselves. And that's just how it's always been. And we can't win this fight alone. We need allies. We need people who see this bullshit for what it truly is. To see racism as it truly exists. As not just saying the N-word and like, oh, if I don't say the N-word, I'm not racist. You've probably heard it a million times before, but it's not enough to not be racist. You have to be anti-racism. You have to be against the system that was created to keep people who look like myself down in society. We are used to apathy. We're used to us saying, hey, please help us. And y'all being like, but the PS5 is coming out. Or, I'm too busy. And we're dying. We're dying. We are out here dying. And if not just dying, we are having a very difficult time in this country. When George Floyd's video started circulating, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't really look into it. Because I'm like, here we go again. Because Eric Garner was a number of years ago. And I thought that would show people like, hey, wow, this is crazy. This guy was selling loose cigarettes on the street and he was choked to death. And yet some people came out and said that like, oh, well, he was doing something illegal. Or what happened before the cameras turned on? Slavery and systematic oppression is what happened before the cameras turned on. Some people truly believe that because he was selling loose cigarettes, he deserved to die. That's how deep embedded racism is. That is, if they're not 100% perfect, if they're not Barack Obama, if they're not Michael Jordan, if they're not LeBron James, if they're not, Jesse Owens, if they're not Jackie Robinson, if they're not all these people who have done extraordinary things because they've had to fight to be seen, to be known, all these people who have had to fight every day of their life, not just in their profession, but to just be a black person in America. Just to be a black person is already a difficult job enough, but they also had to work 6 times harder to become the greatest of all time because they come from that struggle. Now that you're listening, prejudice is an emotional commitment to ignorance. To be prejudiced is to choose to not learn and to be passionate about not learning. To truly feel in your heart, I don't need to know any more things. And that's what gets people killed. That's what starts all of this, is to feel that these people aren't worth my time. And if they need my help, I don't need to know why they need help. Black lives matter? No, all lives matter. You don't even know why they're saying it. All evil that's been committed in this world was by people who are unquestioned and by those who never questioned the evil. When people are crying out, hey, I'm in pain, please help, the worst thing you could do is be like, well, I was once hurt sometimes. You know, I was hurt once, so I don't need to help you. What? Though prejudice comes in many forms. I am Afro-Latino. I'm Puerto Rican, I'm Cuban, and my ancestry is definitely black. When a person sees me on the street, the first assumption comes to them that I am a black man, and I am. And I am also Latino. And I'm also from the Bronx, New York, and I'm also from Miami, Florida. And I also went to school in San Francisco, California, and now I work in LA. So I come from a number of different places, and I'm able to get perspectives of how all of these sides think. And colorism is also real. I'm a light-skinned black man. So there are some advantages that I get that are not given to people who have a darker complexion. And I say this joke a lot where in Miami, I was Michael Cera, and then I moved to San Francisco and I became Wesley Snipes. So my entire life has just been going towards and against perceptions of who I am based on the color of my skin. And I've had to constantly try and be like, hey, I'm a human being. The fact that so many people have died because some believe that I'm not a human being is baffling, and it's difficult, and it's hard to just go through it. And then that caller on that radio said that they're not working hard. Black people aren't working hard enough. Why are they complaining so much? We have to work first off on not getting killed by the police. We learn as kids to put ourselves down, to be extra friendly, to look people in the eye, shake them in their hand, smile, wave, and be as kind as possible, because if we dare have a bad day and are frustrated and are sad for any reason, then that could be seen as a slight, and that could get you killed. Because Dylan Roof can go into a black church, pray with them, murder them, and then be taken by the cops to Burger King. Did he get a life sentence? Is he sentenced to death? Yes. All those things are great. But that's how the justice system, in theory, should work. That you're innocent until proven guilty. But as a person of color, you are guilty until proven otherwise. So when Eric Garner is choked out for selling loose cigarettes and killed on the street on video, and the police aren't reprimanded for that, yeah, sometimes you get angry because you see the divides. Now that you're listening, I have a story about left-handed people. Did you know that the word sinister actually is actually the word for left-handed people in Latin? And that even the word left comes from the Greek word lift, which means weak. And for years, people believed that if you were left-handed, you were touched by the devil. So then left-handed people were ostracized and put into a corner and killed, and just felt like they were mentally ill. Like, that's just the perception that went for a long time, even in religion. The right hand of God. So the fact that if you were left-handed, then, well, that means God doesn't really love you. And that's how people lived their lives for a long time, forcing people to use their right hands. I actually even looked it up. In Buddhism, to be left-handed is actually a blessing. And in old Native American stories, those are people who are magic and are wonderful. And you see how these perceptions of people who are left-handed are positive, and then some of them are very negative, and then people are killed and discriminated against because of that. Now you may be listening to this story and you're like, well, that's fucking stupid. Why would you discriminate someone for being left-handed? That's not something they can change. That's just how their brain works, and their left hand becomes their dominant hand. Yeah, then the same conversation needs to be had about racism. The amount of melanin in your skin shouldn't be determined whether or not you're a good person or a bad person. But prejudice comes in all shapes and sizes. I am a cisgendered, straight male, and I understand that the media interpretation of people who are unlike me, my father, who is a dark-skinned Cuban man, will never admit that he is a black man. He's like, no, And he's had negative things to say about African Americans. And I grew up with that. My father also instilled in me a lot of homophobia. And it's just like, oh, like, yeah, that's what the gays would do, like all that, except he wasn't saying the gays. He would say, like, this is what they're like, don't do that, that's what that would do. And I grew up with that. And then even in middle school and high school, I'd make jokes, like, ha 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 ha, this and that. Because that's just what the perception was. Because The Simpsons would do it, because Family Guy would do it, because these movies I see on TV who are written by this certain group of people, and their sets are telling me that, oh, this is okay. So I believed it to be okay. And then one of my closest friends came out to me, and I had to come to a reckoning of how I've treated people who are unlike me. Same goes with sexism. I once told this girl that all girls talk about is guys. All I knew about things that women were talking about were things from TV where they were all talking about guys. All these TV shows, all these movies, all these songs that just pictured women in a certain light through the perspective of a man. And I was just like, oh, okay, that's just what it is. So that was my perception, and I believed that. And I believed that for much too long, until I was called the fuck out on it, as I should have been. So when we say, hey, there's some shit you're missing when it comes to race, we're not saying that you're evil. We're not saying that you that you are the bad guy. You're saying that we're saying that you've been misinformed for a very long period of time. And I'm thankful that you're opening up your ears, that you're opening up your hearts, that you're opening up your wallets in any way possible to fight against this, because this is not going to be over in 3 months. This is caked in. Racism is the bone cancer of America. And it needs to be fucking drilled out, and it needs to be fucking treated. And hopefully this is the start. So I thank you for listening.